first couple of months, it's honeymoon. But then you now decide to hit the road and say, let's go raise real money. And the first $100,000 check hits the bank account.
A co-founder is a co-builder who's building with you across the entire lines of your startup.
One of the problems that technical people have, I am 90% technical, is that you always have the other guy that calls himself the ideas guy, and he does nothing.
Better you go alone and do it, and then get support from NSPPD, morning prayer, hallelujah challenge. If you are a Muslim, Ansaruddin. If you are doing traditional this thing, go to Shango, whatever, right? Better you get your energy from there than to start with the wrong person.
You need a person that...
Both of you are either startup founders, you've advised startup founders, or you actually have a co-founder for your business. What made you choose your co-founder, Celeste?
Interesting question. I think fate. Prior to starting the current company I run with my co-founder, I used to run a software agency. In that agency, we had this project we were working for a client, and my now co-founder happened to be, think about it like a supervisor, an eye for the client. The client wasn't technical, my co-founder was technical. So in the course of working with the guy, after the project wrapped up, he pulled me aside one day and said, look, over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been working together. I enjoy working with you. I like the way you guys approach this problem. I have been thinking about this, and I wanted to do it with you. I like how you work. What do you think? So yeah, I said, okay, that's fine. I gave it a shot, thought about it. I knew nobody that I could ask about who he was. I just went with my gut feeling. I said, look, if we crash and burn, great, but hopefully we don't. I spoke to my wife. She gave her blessing, and that was it.
Okay. All right. Omori, how did you choose your partner at ENC?
Interesting choice. Your wife is your parent when it comes to your co-founder relation. I think I would start from there. When talking about choosing a co-founder, it's like marriage. It's predominantly marriage, right? So your relationship with a co-founder, I like this brother who's already writing. No time. No goddamn time. Right. Anyway, you see, one of the first things I say to founders is your co-founder is your spouse. Your startup is the foundation of your union. Your products are your children or your service and stuff. So it's home. Your life will ultimately change. It's a relationship that is deeper than even the business in itself. So it's not something you run into carelessly. How many of you will marry who you don't know? She has big bum, she's fine, you just marry her. How many? Right? Or how many of you will take on a co-founder just because he's providing a particular value to your startup? This guy can help me do this, so let me just bring him on board. How many of us? It's the same thing as marrying a lady with big bum that is fair. We're adults, so let's be that clear. Because oftentimes the relationship is not, and if you speak to Celestine, he will tell you, the co-founder relationship is not about the business or the product as much as it is about the individuals. So he ended by saying, I spoke to my wife and she gave her blessing. That's the same way you speak to your parents in marriage and they give their blessings. Why have I rattled on and on about this? because we've seen a lot of abuse of that phrase, co-founder. Co-founder, it's one of the easiest things to do. For people employ people and employ them for roles that they call them co-founders. And I think that that's wrong, right? Your co-founder is your co-laborer on the journey. Your relationship goes beyond just the business. You've come together for the business, right? But your relationship goes beyond that business, deep into the essence of your core. So now I'll speak to my partner and I. So all we needed was compatibility, right? To understand each other and know our do's and don'ts. So where my madness stops is where her own begins. You get the drift, right? We're able to complement each other. I'm hot, she's cold. I'm nice, she can be mean. I can be mean, she can be nice. It all depends on the circumstances, right? So you end up balancing the relationship. Because if you look just to the business, chances are that you guys will put in all that you need to put in at the time you've come together, because you've come to do something and both of you are interested in doing it, right? But when things go south, or when things start working very well, or when money comes in, people now begin to show who they really are. When problems come in, they now show who they are. Then the product is not able to help you contextualize your relationship. Then the startup cannot do anything about a greedy person. The business cannot do anything about someone who is telling lies. You get what I'm saying? The business cannot do anything about someone who is dishonest. A dishonest, slothful person can build the best product with you. That's not the problem. That's not the issue. Anybody can. But someone who does not fit into your values cannot build a business that transcends the product, that is sustainable, because you both have to agree. So you make $1 million today, and I say to Celestine, I want to go and marry 3 wives in my village. He believes that if we plow in all our profit, we'll make 10x. And so he's looking long term. I'm not looking long term. I'm looking short term. We start arguing. We've built a fantastic product that has raised $1 million, right? But now, what do we do with the money and the business? I'm thinking differently. He's thinking differently. The business is where it is. It's not going forward. Then what do you now have? An enemy within. You know, the worst thing you can do for yourself is to have an enemy inside your camp. Many startups have died today because people who were supposed to protect it became the problem in itself. Not because they didn't like the product, but because there was no compatibility. So I've said this much to say compatibility, shared values, and then having the difficult conversation at the beginning. Discussing those difficult things at the onset. What do we do with money? What do we do with decisions? When do we scale? Do we bring in third parties? Are we going to work with investors? Are we not working with investors? What's our market? What's our plan? Mid-term, short-term, long-term. We had these conversations. We agreed to these issues. We got on board. If you don't address these issues, no problem. Start. If we come back to it, it's like having a child. If a child starts walking now, praise the Lord, what God cannot do does not exist. But that child will end up coming back to crawl. Because you see, there's something about nature. Nature brings you back to where you ought to be. And so if you decide to build a startup and you think you need a co-founder, then you have to discuss the entire journey as foreseeable as you can with your co-founder. When we started E&C, and every other venture I've dealt with, right? One of the things that I discussed with my partner, we discussed as if we were already a top-tier law firm at that time. So we had strategy meetings, we were discussing issues, we were addressing those issues, we were agreeing and disagreeing. Okay, let's adjourn and come back tomorrow. You think we're talking of one Fortune 500 company, but we're able to address a lot of the issues and put things in clear perspective. So as soon as those things started happening, it was a no-brainer. We could just immediately align into it because we've had those conversations, we've had those discussions, and it just, flowed into it, right? So if I tell you, there were specific things I looked out for, I may not be entirely right? But in discovering someone you want to go on the journey with, you put some guardrails by having some conversations to determine compatibility. And then when you determine compatibility in that space, then you can address whether your values are shared. And you see, when we talk about shared values, you can be a thief. Just make sure your co-founder is also a thief like you. Then both of you agree to be stealing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's not about, I need to get an honest person. I need to get a dishonest person. Shared values mean, what do you stand for? Does that co-founder stand for the same thing? I do not mean same personality. Because oftentimes we blur the lines. So we could say, your personalities don't have to match, but your values must be shared, right? What you both stand for that would determine the trajectory of the business must be aligned, because you're going to be dealing with third parties. Some people will come to you just for the purpose of breaking you guys, right? Some people will come where you have two people running a business. The fastest way to attack the business, and competitors know that, is to attack the owners of the business. Bring division or give offers that you know can divide them. If your values are shared, you've had the difficult conversation, you've discussed a lot of things, it's very easy for you to just, see these things before they happen and ward them off. But you've had those conversations.
Okay. So I think we should talk about some of these conversations. Both of you have talked about how it wasn't like you went out looking for specific qualities, but you also had conversations before you started. Celestine, your wife was like ultimately the tiebreaker for you. But did you have like certain important conversations before you guys decided to start a formal relationship?
Oh, yes, we did. We had conversations. So, just like every relationship, if you're here falling in love with someone before, first 3 weeks is honeymoon. Everything is sweet. Everything is nice. Just the same way also, co-founder relationship. First couple of months, it's honeymoon. But then you now decide to hit the road and say, let's go raise real money. And the first $100,000 check hits the bank account. See what that means? That's almost 200 million naira. So suddenly you realize that you've been living in Shomolu for the last 10 years. And when it rains, it floods really bad. And that's a very valid concern. And you want to move to 1004. It's not a bad thing. So what happens then? That's when the real conversation comes. So you have to talk about those things. So when money comes, what do we do with money? It's very important. The easiest way to break that union, it's when money hits. That's when you now realize that this guy has a taste for caviar, and he knows all the exotic wines in town. It's not a bad thing. And especially when these days investors don't give you money in tranche again, they just give you every single thing. So you're raising $500,000. You spend 3 months raising it, and every single thing came together to $500,000. That money sits somewhere, let's say Cross River Bank or Silicon Valley Bank, and every single day you log into your account and you see 5 with 5 other zeros after it, it can do something to you. So when money comes, what do we do with money? It's very important, very important. 2, how do we break issues? Because you're going to have arguments, you know, 2 different people, you have different thoughts as to how things should happen. So those moments when you have those heated and difficult arguments, who do both of you think you respect enough to call to the table as a mediator to say, you know what, this is where I think you should go to? 3, you talk about respect for individuals and their strength. So what that means, just like every other relationship, you don't want to be the lord over the other person. The other person don't expect you to be lord over them. The very moment you want to go that path, it will backfire, because technically we're both equals, even though your equity might differ, but technically you're equals. If you're married here, you're not your wife's lord. Your wife is not your lord also. You're technically equal in that relationship. So you respect individual strengths. This person has experience in marketing, in branding, in operations. Okay, fine. So even when you have the brightest idea, or ultimately you trust him enough to defer to their own suggestion. And it's important also that they trust you enough to defer to whatever you think that you say. If you don't respect each other, you're going to have issues every now and then, especially when you are, maybe call it alpha type personality. You know, if you don't respect yourselves, you're going to have those issues. So you talk about them. Then you talk about what you're going to do with this money again. I'm going back to that first thing. First thing is compensation. What do we pay ourselves? It's very important, because suddenly you look at $500,000, it's a lot of money. That's about $1 billion today. And you think this money is going to last you 2 years. But by the time you now begin to do the work, you suddenly realize that, look, this money is not going to last you past 6 months. Now the question is, in that 6 months, what are you doing with this money? Are you going to spend the money on advertisements? How are you going to pay yourself? And unfortunately, we have glamorized startups to the point where people think it's an exit to wealth. It's not. I can tell you for a fact that I am considerably poorer than my peers. I'm not ashamed of it. It's the road I choose, but I'm okay with it. Can I pay myself some kind of pay? Yes, I can. I can do that. But understand that the people that give you this money are not stupid also. They're some of the smartest people that you're going to talk to. So by the time somebody sits down with you and say, okay, you know what, between 2 names, you and your co-founder, there's $30,000 going on between both of you. You know, let's talk about that. Then you have to have that conversation. 2 things is going to happen. Either you're going to end up with a very terrible name, or you're going to go to jail. I have 2 tiny kids behind in this hall, and I don't have plans of going to jail. So you have to come to those kinds of conversations, and you have to have them very early on. Mr. Oyi said, it's very important. Else, you might end up spending way more time arguing than even building the business itself. Then lastly also, it comes down to values. Even though I'm the CEO of the company, I don't touch money. It's not my strength. I don't do money issue. My co-founder trusts money. And I trust that man with my life. I know it sounds cliche, but really I do. Because if I don't, then what's the point? My trust that he will do right by me. I trust that, you know, I won't wake up one day and he has a brand new car in front of his house and we have to have a conversation about that car. I trust that he won't loan himself money. You know, people loan themselves money from the business with the hope that you're going to pay back. Please don't loan yourself money, because I guarantee you won't pay back. It's not because you're a bad person, because life will always happen. You know, more trouble will come and you say, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And once you break that trust, it's really hard. You don't want to have a co-founder that is applying to a new job under your nostrils. You know, so I think, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Omori, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not know what the line of questioning is, and if we will still speak to some of the deeper issues. But what's very important is documenting your relationship. right? You know, do you know why your marriage, for how many of us are married? Okay, very few of us. Raise your hand, are you not proud of being married? Okay, right. But you know why your marriage is so sacred? And why you can't afford to say, you know what, I'm tired, I beg, I'm going. Because you've got a certificate, right? Signed, enshrined in law, that makes it impossible for you to just move on until you have to do a divorce. In fact, the other day I was counting with the team. We've done quite a number of divorces that I've gotten so dispassionate about some of these things. But that's why you can't afford to just move on, right? The only way you can cement properly your co-founder relationship is to have a co-founders agreement. I did not say partnership agreement. I said a co-founders agreement. And if you have, how many of you have gone through my class? Have you gone through? No wonder you have been shaking your head. You already like me, right? But then it's a very serious journey. And that's why we've decided to take you through a class. The same way you go through a marriage class. Help you contextualize that journey and the yeses and the nos. A product of that class is, just like your marriage certificate, is your co-founders agreement. Now, what it does is that it gives you clarity as to all that you guys have agreed to, the journey you guys want to go on, and how you want to get there. Even with the purest of intentions as a human being, you're bound to want to deviate. So Celestine can trust his co-founder with his life, right? I am not party to the internals, but I'm sure they have some sort of document that regulates their relationship. That's one. Two, even when issues come, they are able to look to something for clarity. And so you can't overemphasize the need to document that relationship. Put it in black and white after having what we call the difficult conversation. Sit down and throw it all open. Argue. And I'll tell you that 75% of people that I've taken through the difficult conversation have come back to say, thank you very much. I'm not sure that I can be a partner. I'm not sure this guy can be my co-founder. In fact, somebody sent me a message and sent me, thank you, 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 God bless you, thank you, thank you. And when he was done with all the plenty thank yous, I said, what happened? He said, we just finished our second meeting, and I just realized that I was walking into a very big mess. So I've retraced my step. Right? You know, in marriage, you date. So you get to see some things. It's not exactly like that with co-founders. So you now have to actually ask those questions. You now have to actually spark that fire to see reactions and see energy. And even in going through the class, in fact, a particular set of co-founders, the two of them, they didn't even get to the meeting stage before they knew that one person will not respond to questionnaires, the other person will not reply emails, the person that was, the one person was committed, the other person wasn't. And they now say, so if we're already having these issues now, what will happen? You're not just a serious person. And that led to one thing, and before you knew what happened, everybody went their separate ways. Good or bad? Guys, good or bad? Eh? It's good. Because now, you don't have $1 million in your pocket yet. You don't have any products. You don't have a market. You've not built a name yet. You've been able to realize that this thing is not going to work. Imagine when you built a name, you've put all this money together, and then you realize that it can't work. So documenting your relationship is very important with a co-founder agreement. And not just any type of agreement. You see, the startup ecosystem is very unique. It's nothing like you would typically know. And so what that means is that our nuances, our culture, our systems are a lot more different, from the regular businesses you see out there. So it's important that as you document your journey, you put into context the nuances of this relationship. Address issues of money, issues. Listen, it's even as important as your spouse. If you're not married, the both of you agree on your dating lines. Who are you going to date? You think that's not important? Once you date somebody that tells you that your co-founder, his head is too big, I don't want to see him in this house again. You don't think it happens? You have a co-founder, you are building a product, and suddenly you marry somebody, and the person says, God has said we should move to Canada. You are laughing. When you have the experience I have, if I remove my cap and you see this gray hair, it's a product of dealing with all sorts of people. And that's because you haven't had those conversations. The first thing they tell you in YC, go back to your families and tell them your life is about to change forever. We often glamorize entrepreneurship. Being a startup founder is now the in thing. You wear jeans, you wear canvas like me. Put on face cap, things in there. Entrepreneurship is one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life. If you have not had an emotional meltdown, if you have not asked yourself, is it I'm running mad? If you have not had a taste of delusions of grandeur, you are not in the right place. Seriously, am I lying? Have you not questioned your sanity before?
I have several times.
So, it's not a cool place where you come in and you expect that, it's all fun and vibes, there's a structure, it's not like working in the bank, or working in the oil company. Even when you're in school, those are the big places you want to work in. Bank, oil company, where they pay plenty of money. It's not like that. You are constantly questioning whether you are on the right track. And there's one very important thing you need that your spouse may not be able to give you. Constant reassurance. And that's what your co-founder does. And that's what you would do also for your co-founder. When it gets hard, when it gets difficult, when you are questioning so many things, once there's a synergy, you are able to say, guy, are you sure we're doing the right thing? And if you get the dynamics right, it's a very beautiful thing. You know why? You are never burning at 50-50. 50-50 gives you 100. It's never at 50-50. One person is always at 10. The other person is at 30 or 40. And then when the person at 30 or 40 is down, you've charged up the other person. That's how it works. So I hope you're now getting the nuances of that co-founder relationship. So why you can't afford to just jump in. It's better you go alone and do it and then get support from NSPPD, morning prayer, Hallelujah Challenge. If you are a Muslim, Ansarudeen. If you are doing traditional this thing, go to Shango. Whatever, right? Better you get your energy from there than to start with the wrong person. Do you know what it means for Celestine to spend the whole night? Sorry, I'm going to be using you a lot. To spend the whole night, he's a CTO as well as a co-founder. So he's doing the dirty work, right? Building something that he thinks will scale or improve service delivery efficiency. And then he walks into his co-founder's office and says, look, I think I've done this, I've tweaked this, I've done that. And the person says, this is going to fail, I beg. Or the person says, hey, come. You know that that money, you're wasting our money. Or you know, there are certain things that your co-founder will do and automatically it kills you. And that's because that synergy is not there. So even if that, so let me tell you, I'm very restless. And because I've done, so at the time I was doing MBA, LLM certification at the same time. That will tell you how restless I am. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And because I do things fast, so let me give you a bit of a context. The average time for writing exams in universities are 3 hours, I believe. Law school, 3 hours. I have never written any exam in my life for more than 45 minutes, 1 hour. And so when I'm done, I just finish. In fact, when I wrote my law school exam, I finished writing, raised my hand. I was just looking around, and the examiner came and said, what are you doing? Why are you trying to, can't you write or something? I said, I've finished. I said, you have what? The exam is barely 1 hour in. I said, I have finished. Let me see your script. Took my script, looked at it. You have actually read it. Have you read? I have finished. They took me from there, put me on the stage. If you know the law school. So I now sat on the stage. I was now looking at those who were writing. And I had friends there. I was even dating someone there. In fact, she almost failed that paper because she thought something was wrong with me. And so I was now there. And I saw that she was staring. I was doing her like this. Then some people are doing. So that's the kind of person I am, right? So imagine being with me and working with me. And I get good grades. I just process things very fast. Now, you have to have a partner. So in law firms, we use partners at times, right? Who understands your speed of thoughts, understands how you work. So sometimes when I come with very dynamic stuff and everything, oh, that's nice, oh, that's good. First hype me, and then when I say, hey, to work, eh? She will now say, can we talk about this tomorrow? Or let's do this. I think there are things, she'll just ask me 2-3 questions that I probably haven't thought about. Now, those questions will help me calm down. Know that, Baba, you're running too fast. I'll think it through. It's the same me that will now come back and say, I think we should put this on the side burner. The benefit of having a co-founder that understands your nuances, right? If she made the mistake of shooting it down without my heat, I'm very stubborn, I have coconut head, I will now try to prove a point. See, many co-founders are proving a point. And so the business is suffering. The vision is dying because they're trying to prove a point. But because you are able to get me to see reason or get me to see a few things and all that. And then the same thing, right? She tends to take her time on a lot of things. I tend to want to get things moving. And because of efficiency, in fact, we've had certain clients who believe that we don't have work. You know why? Because we're very fast in responding. So they now think, maybe these people don't have work. Maybe we're the only client. In fact, somebody actually said to my partner that, let me see if I can get you guys a couple of clients. I'm not sure if people have work. And she said, how? I said, so because we're very fast, okay. By the time we showed him, just gave him a glimpse of what we were doing, He didn't say that to me, but he had to reach out to me to apologize. But that's the point. You have to have a founder that understands you, because everybody is bringing something different, and you must understand that. It's a very, for want of better language, it's a spiritual journey, right? That is tied in with proper legalese, which means your documentation must be properly done, right? I have said all this to arrive at this point. Any person who is not going to have the sort of relationship that I have labored to talk to you about is not a co-founder and should not be called a co-founder. Look for the professional term of what they are doing and give them. A co-founder is a co-builder who is building with you across the entire lines of your startup. Celestine, am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're not.
All right. So I think we've kind of dealt with conflict in a way, and I just want to hear from you. In the 5-6 years now you've been working with your co-founder, have you guys had any conflict?
Every 2 business day.
Okay. So when that happens, how do you go about resolving those conflicts?
I mean, so again, it goes down to one. Why did I choose this person to do with this person? Just always go back to like the essence. Every single time you fight with your wife, do you file for divorce? No, you don't. It's not like, okay, so why did I marry this person in the first place? You know. So I think go back to like, why did I choose this person? There was something about them that made me choose them in the first place. And always understand that the other person has the best interest of whatever it is that you guys are doing at heart. Even though you might have varying points and divergent ideas, always believe that, okay, they have the best interest at heart. They just have to do a better job in allowing you to see their point of view, and vice versa also. You do have to do a better view of allowing them to see their point of view. And please don't fight dirty. It's not a war zone. That's not time for you to sling insults at each other. It's not, that's not what you're there to do. You disagree, of course, okay. I'll give you 2 examples. One of the things that would cause tension a lot for you is when you see what competition is doing, which is not a bad thing, right? Your competition is everywhere. You open Facebook, they're there. You open Twitter, they're there. You open this, they're there. And your co-founder said, oh, we're not visible enough. And you said, okay, look, let's face it. What we raised as pre-seed round is what this guy probably used as a weekend retreat. I'll give you an example. Paystack did an excellent article about the last retreat that he had. And the cost of that retreat was $250,000. Now, that's pretty much maybe all I have raised for pre-seed. Do you think I should go and do a retreat like Paystack? Do I hate my team members? No, just be realistic with yourself and say, look, wow, this is good, though, but we cannot do this. So always understand that part, come to an agreement and speak very well. Now, my rule of thumb is avoid sending emails and Slack message in the heat of the moment. Don't do that. The other person hits, and you're like, yeah, you type it. No, don't hit send. Take a walk. I play table tennis, so when I have the opportunity, I'll go and play table tennis. I like movies. I find this series. I'm always watching one series or the other. Just find one episode and just watch. Let your mind calm down. By the time it calms down, you're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, even though their delivery was not nice, but their intentions are pure. So how do we deal with this? And you can now respond. And you find that more often than not, you end up coming to like, quote unquote, apologize to your person. Look, you know what? I misstep, all of this sorts of stuff. But don't see this as it's not a war tough. Nobody's winning. I'm not winning against him. He's not winning against me. We're all here for the same mission. And always understand that what's the business, the potential of the business or the aim of the business supersedes every single person's intention. So whatever we can do to make it succeed, then that's fine. So again, be respectful to each other. If you don't respect your co-founder, you will not do well. It's unfortunate, So just respect each other and respect their opinion and come back to it. And if things ever get to the point where it's heated, both of you should agree, like, let's go seek advice from people. I have called investors before. Just like spouses will seek advice from like a therapist or a marriage counselor. It doesn't mean that you don't trust yourself, but most times a third party bringing in a very different perspective to a situation will bring a lot of clarity that both of you, just because you were both tense, you couldn't see. It slipped out your rear view. So that's it.
Okay. So you talked earlier about how money can be a major source of conflict, right? And one part of that is how you split equity, especially when two of you are probably contributing the same amount of capital to the business. How did you have that conversation? How did you guys split equity between each other?
So you can never have 50-50 equity. It's not possible. And I don't suggest you should do it. You always need a tiebreaker. I think for us I looked at remember my co-founder sort of, came to me. And before then, one of the problems that technical people have, I am 90% technical, is that you always have the other guy that calls himself the ideas guy. And he does nothing. He's just slinging ideas to the wall. Let's do this, let's do this, Then okay, yeah, sure. You don't need an ideas guy. You need a person that rolls off their sleeves and stay with you in the ditch and say, look, we're going to figure this out. I need a person also that has some sort of leverage. What's your leverage? My co-founder is excellent at networking. I don't really know that. He knows who to call, that can get things happen. You need that kind of person, right? And before he came to me, he had a clear, well-refined idea of what he wanted us to do. He wasn't using me as a sounding board, so he wasn't so he said, look, even though his ideas were not 100% crystallized, but to a large extent, you could see that this person has done a lot of work. So when he said, look, I came here, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, I think I should get this. It was a very easy conversation. He came not just with the idea, he came with, I think at the time, $60,000 check. So he was like, okay, yeah, sure, this guy he knows what he's talking about, so I can work with him. And so whatever we did split, he has more equity than myself. This is the first time you're hearing it. Even though I read the title of a CEO, he has way more equity than myself. So I think we also make that mistake that the CEO has to have more equity. No, it's not. That's not how it works. There's also a reason why most investors will hire professional managers to come and manage your business. Doesn't mean you're a fool. Just like that's not your competence. So for us, it was like, okay, this guy has a lot more that he's bringing to the table. Then sure, it makes sense for him to have just share of the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Omori, so let's hear from you as the lawyer. He has talked about how they came to that agreement. But for you, you've advised a lot of startups and you've seen how either they arrived at a poor equity split or a very good equity split. So what's your advice on that?
Right. I'll piggyback off what Celestine said. You can't have a 50-50 equity arrangement. It's practically impossible. And even if you attempt it, you end up shooting yourself in the leg. Right? So you must have a deal breaker. You must have that deciding vote. And you must agree. So in addition to a co-founder agreement, there's something we ask co-founders to do when you've finally scored with us. We say, okay, go and create what we call your SOP, your standard operating procedure for yourselves, which is how you take decisions, how often you have your meetings, what should happen if someone comes late for a meeting. Very simplistic, mundane stuff, right? Decision making and all that. So tying in that, it helps you. But coming back to the equity question, oftentimes, I don't even like to advise on equity from a place of how much you're bringing in or what you're contributing. I often advise founders to look at equity from the journey of the startup. What you intend to achieve along those lines. So that will help you. So many founders see equity as a cake. Just cut, give this one, give that one, give this other person, and all that. It's a very faulty premise, dangerously faulty one, right? And I say to founders, when you contribute, one way of getting accountability, when you bring value, whether sweat equity, whether cash, into a startup, make it debt. Let the business pay you after some time. Right? So the business knows from the onset that it is owing you your reimbursables. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, guys. Right? Business is owing you some reimbursables. You see, there's something that's permeating the ecosystem, and that's financial rascality, fiscal indiscipline. And oftentimes it's from a product of feeling like you have money that you did not borrow. And some people feel because I've given you 5% equity. What does that even mean? When you first time you're saying in the next couple of years, if we don't tidy up and if we don't rewire mindsets, many founders will be in jail or be regular visitors to the commission. And it's not because they were fraudulently minded, but because they were careless. Right? So I like to look at equity from the angle of where are we going to? What do we need to do? That determines how we will. So co-founders are predominantly trustees of equity, not owners of equity. You may own some, but you're holding it in trust. Because what you're building, you don't know who the owners of that will become. Does Jeff Bezos own 100%? Do you know how much, because you are the person that knows all the data and numbers, how much equity does Bill Gates have in Microsoft? Do you have an idea? Eh? It has come down to more, it's below 6%. Was even, it's now 1%, Abi? Who said that 1%? Let me know your feelings so that if I'm wrong, I will come and catch you. It's actually between 1 and maybe even point something. So you are trustees of it. You don't know the journey. Do you understand me? So in equity, right, at the onset, when you come on board, don't take it as this is how much of the company I own. This is how much trust I am keeping. Are we agreeing to dilute? So it's 100%, Abi? Okay. You take 45, I take 55. At least you don't get gray hair. I get gray hair. You take 55, I take 55, you take 45. We agree that we are holding this in trust as we build. We may bring in investors. We may decide to, and we will definitely dilute as we go on, and we give equity as we build on the journey. But whatever investments I have brought in is debt that the company owes me and payment that will be structured. So what happens is when we make $1 million, I brought in 600K. You pay me my 600K. If the company cannot afford to pay me my 600K, we structure the payment. Do you understand me? Now, that builds some level of responsibility on the part of the founders. If you look at how many startups have gone to exit, first of all, I don't believe if you are building and you are building to exit, I don't know whether you are a startup. And I have very, very novel views on some of these issues, right? Because if all these are guys built to exit, the tech today that we are relishing in, would we have it? You need to have that staying power, but think long term. But what you should think of is sustainability. When the time comes, you will have to actually shift But are you structuring it enough to ensure that when you shift, you're still well taken care of, the company is still running? You understand me? So that, I think, should be the predominant conversation founders should have at the time when you want to give out, when you are thinking of equity distribution, right? Three major concerns: the journey, yourselves, and your team. You have to have a small percentage that you are going to keep to elicit long-term employees and, sweat equity from team members, small percentage and all that. You're holding on to some, and then the rest you're holding in trust for your journey as you go on. The issue of the deciding votes and the likes comes predominantly from your ability to decide amongst yourselves, right? So if there's a deal breaker, who's going to give the deciding vote, right? And this is why you can't have too many co-founders. It is practically not a very wise thing to do. Do you understand me? And if you look at all the startups, you see, as founders, budding founders and all that, one thing I want to tell you must be good students of history. And why there's still very little, when we are talking of startup, tech and innovation, we don't have too much history, but there's still a lot to learn. And if you look back at all the startups that have grown and have done very well, how many co-founders did they have? Can someone give me the average number? 2. Some maximum 3. Even Apple started more like a co-founder arrangement. Steve didn't start Apple alone, right? He started with, there was Wozniak, there was one more person, right? And in fact, they had a consultant where Steve was working when he was building the technology. He was working somewhere, right? So that person gave them some sort of guidance. In fact, he helped them raise the first money they received on that journey. But then, imagine if there was so many people. Now, what happened is that as time went on, as it got serious, they streamlined. So if you have too many people, imagine the decision-making process. Imagine the logistics of it. Imagine the process flow. Do you understand? It becomes problematic. But you can have 15 people in your management, or 15 people in your core team who are mid-level or even C-suite, if what you are building requires it. But to have, a co-founder is like, you're a builder. You guys are building a house. One person is placing the blocks. Another person is mixing the cement. On every part of your journey, one person is doing something, the other person is doing. So as you are putting the block, the person is mixing. You understand me, right? So you have to now understudy startups that have become successful, the ones that have failed. What made the successful ones successful? What made the ones that fail? Luckily, this ecosystem is an open book. When startups fail, it's everywhere. Because they will not spare them. You see the news, you read it, right? You get a few insights. The ones that have done well, you will see it. But there's something I wanted to mention. In a co-founder relationship, there must be daddy and mommy. Do you understand what I mean? There must be husband and wife. There must be the head of the home and the neck of the home. Do you understand me? What that means is that you can't have two captains. And it's not about equity. It's about your collective decision, oftentimes based on your personalities. There must be somebody who takes that control. You know, at home, when everyone has gone to bed, it's daddy that will use torchlight and go and check that everywhere is locked, all the ACs are switched off, everything, and then you go to bed. Not me, I the first sleep. But, you know, that level of ownership, there must be that person amongst the co-founders, right? One person must take on that responsibility and burden. But whoever has that burden must ensure that he treats the other person with respect and honor. One of it is members of your team must not see you disrespect the other person. Very important. And you must be an open book. So let me tell you something that works with us. You know, employees can be very smart. So they can intentionally, pretending to be unintentional about it, pitch you against yourselves. They'll come and tell you one thing, they go and tell the other person another thing. You know, they try to curry favors or confuse you when you give instructions. You must make it crystal clear that there are no secrets between the both of you. So people must know that if Chigozilim tells Celestine something, I will hear, no matter what. Because, and then whoever has the ear of other members of the team must be very careful not to rub it off on the other person. So if there are two co-founders, there will be one that is endeared to the team members, who people like, who they can talk to. And there will be one that is supposedly feared, or they distance themselves from that person. Do you understand me? In fact, in my own case, when people think they want, you know, favors and stuff, they go to my partner. I'm the nice person, but people don't understand. Right? And oftentimes, oh, please, can we get this? Can we get that? And all that. But once she closes it, I don't overrule. Because the moment you do such things for third parties, you undermine the relationship. And once you start undermining the relationship, you start breaking off that trust. Once you've agreed on something, hell or high water, that is what it is. And even if you have to disagree, even if you have to change it, you both must come back inside, agree. And so what I'm trying to say is that there must be a common, united front. Right? Adewale and Muyiwa kind of think that, you know, they disagree openly on issues, and, you know, Adewale said that, which is very, very unique to them. But I also feel that you have to be also very careful of the mindsets of the people around you. You know, the Bible says you don't give strong meat to babies, right? The implication of that is that you must understand the knowledge of the people around you, and that must help you determine how you behave in the presence of every other person on the team. But one thing is very clear. Everyone must know that the both of you are one. When you take decisions, your decisions are as both of you have agreed, and each person is respecting the other. No one is undermining the other person. Nobody is trying to be nice to the outsider or nice to the staff at the detriment of the other person. Because once you start doing that, you know, co-founder relationships don't just end because of money or because of certain dynamics. They also end oftentimes because of heartbreak. And that heartbreak is a product of your behavior. Things that you supposedly take for granted. Something as simple as even starting a meeting in the absence of your co-founder. Maybe because the co-founder is running late. Without getting a clear agreement that, okay, hey, can we start? You're running late. And then you just start and say, I don't like lateness. And then your co-founder comes in and then you wash him down or wash her down. We are very disciplined in this. No problem. But once you start demoralizing leadership, you're doing it to yourself. And it will just, continue to snowball into more problems.
All right. So I think that's like the last question I can take. We were supposed to have some time for questions, but unfortunately we won't be able to do that. So, okay, let's see. So we can only take 2 questions. All right. Okay. Yes. Actually, just 4. So my other here has told me we can take 4. So just 4 questions. And I have already seen 4 hands. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I had a simple question. I mean, I co-found currently. It's sealed. Yeah, and there's certain concerns I have. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to know what are the legal documentations that we need to have, right? We don't currently have any documentation, and it's a concern for me, right? We're over a year.
Problem.
Yeah, we're over a year, and I know, the relationship started with colleague to colleague kind of relationship, and it was really mutual. Fact is that we really work very well. I mean, we've not had major concerns, and we've been building. We are sort of gaining some visibility. So, but I think there's certain things that we should have closed out. I mean, we had some other co-founders that had to drop off the co-founder ladder. So, but we are 2 left, and he has the upper hand. I manage the technical team. I mean, guys, we're doing very well. As if we got what we did solid is solid, but we're beginning to gain some level of visibility. I mean, we have theoretical agreements.
I get what you've said, right? So I'll say this. I talk what's your name? No, yeah? Because they go, they look me like say if you come on there, I go beat you. Adegoke and I are co-founders, right? Adegoke talk, we talk, lie go there inside. You know that, right? Anything that is not written in black and white is susceptible to misrepresentation. If you are going to go long term, you must document. So if Adegoke says, this is the basis of our agreement, we agreed we will not dilute, or we agreed we will dilute, and I am saying something else. If Adegoke cannot point to a document, our relationship has failed. Thank you. Do you understand me? The only way you show seriousness is documenting. In fact, your first red flag with a co-founder is a refusal to document. That should be your first red flag. If they like say, oh, I love you, I want, no, how about you be man, God forbid. I say to her, I love you, it's Valentine, you're wearing red. There's something, okay, there's no red. Anyway, I love you, I want to marry you, let's go to the marriage registry. And she says to me, no. We may still continue the relationship, but guess what, guys? That's a red flag. Do you understand me? The first red flag is whether or not your co-founder is willing to document. So it's never too late. They say the last best time to build a tree was 100 years ago. The next best time is now. So document, right? Co-founder counselingclass.com. You give them that information, right? Yeah, so my Ogamuyiwa will sort you out. But once you go through that class, you get... I'm not going to advise you to just rush and go and get a co-founders agreement. Like I said, it is not the typical arrangement, right? And I'm going this far because I expect that any other person who has any question in this regard, this is speaking to it, right? You must contextualize your journey as co-founders. You must agree to certain things. And what you have agreed to, experts will now come together, put it in writing, and give you. That will be the Bible that will regulate that relationship. And it is not a closed book. You can always update and have addendums as things happen. The next thing that you should also keep at the back of your mind is that third parties will respect you. It's first proof of your structure. You want to close seed, where is your data room? When I look at your data room, do you have the right documents? Okay, this is my co-founder. Where is the document that's binding the both of you? How do I get into your heads as to what that co-founder relationship is all about? If there's nothing to that, as an investor, that's a red flag. And even if I fund, I will fund from a place of mischief, knowing fully well that I can drive the wedge between both of you, get the best person on my side, destroy the relationship, and at the end of the day, do what? Take over the company.
So we are agreeing that nobody's asking a question that he has already answered, yeah?
Yeah, thank you so much for responding to that. It's because it's like a carrier's moment for our company. Like we started about like 3-4 days ago, where he has the same issue. So I saw this stuff yesterday, and I saw the team of it, co-founders, and that was why.
And you rushed here.
I rushed here. Like even right now, so that's one of the questions I want to ask. Like my co-founder team are currently listening right now online because I sent it to them yesterday. Guys, we need to, we are having an issue. We need to solve this problem around this.
Have you put the account number for offering?
Yeah, so thank you so much for that clarity. But also, want to know, you were speaking around, and you started it, but you talk about the time, how much of co-founders should you have? Like, so I want to, should I say a little bit specific? So that we cannot, some cannot see 10. They'll be saying that, okay, that's not much, So is it like 2, 3, 4? I want you to be specific around that numbers.
So I'm going to sub somebody. I'm going to sub somebody in this room, right? I'm going to sub somebody in this room who I know very well, right? Or I know to some extent, and we're having a conversation like this. And they're kind of a bit of too many. Listen. If you are dating more than one person at the same time, you are being deceitful. Even polygamy. They tell you marry one first, you can marry another one, Abi. The point is, too many people create a problem. A co-founder relationship is an intimate relationship. Emphasis on the word intimate. I'm not saying you should go and start impregnating your co-founders. But the point I'm trying to make is, did you hear what Celestine said? I trust him with my life. You won't trust 10 people with your life. They'll just kill you through it. Yeah, awesome. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You can have 10 people, 17 people, 20 people on your team. No problem. But not as co-founders. When you don't pass 3, you become in a crowd. 4, you're taking it too far. 5, you don't reach here. 10, you won't choke me.
Thank you so much. And sorry. So
even Bible stopped at 3. 2 or 3 are gathered. You won't come also, increase them.
So the last one is just straight, and this is relating to, you were saying something about the equity. The shares that you have. So you might have 5% shares. So how would I? So the question I'm trying to ask is, look at Elon Musk, or almost all of these guys. They have 7%, 13%, 6%, even 1%. But the voting power of their company, they still have like the biggest. It should, in case anything, plays out that is not necessarily. So I want you to help me to like the difference
How does
between,
that work?
yes, like because you might, like you said, the founder itself might have like maybe 2% of whatsoever they're trying to build, but won't it affect I think 4 of us now, like you said, if maybe there are 3 of them, like let 2 of us, like let me say the 2 co-founders now go against the founder, like this guy is not running in the same space, so how can we remove him from this? So I want you to explain around how that.
Why are you even worried about removing somebody in this?
No, I'm not worried.
Baba no want take chance. He know what he they build.
I just want to, I'm just co-founder too, but I just want to, this thing, like you said, is clarity. Personally, I don't like having this kind of conversations too. But I think the way it is
must
now,
have it.
That's the point. We need to have, before we're just good friends, we build this idea together, let us just journey. But the moment we start seeing some hiccups, like, okay, let us clarify, like, document everything that we are all about. So it's like you said, the Bible that we stand on so that we can move forward. So no issues in the future. So that's just the reason I feel.
Say something.
Yeah.
So how many co-founders do you have? Yeah, like 4. Okay, it's not too bad.
It don't they reach here. See where that day.
So I have a problem when people are getting into a relationship with some level of animosity. It's like everybody is, let me protect myself. I have a big problem with that. It's like when you go on Twitter, people are saying, I cannot kneel down in my marriage. I cannot do this. Like, why are you marrying the person? It has to be a selfless relationship. That's how I look at it. It has to be selfless from the first one. And again, while the aim of having contract and agreements is not so that tomorrow we'll fight so that we can. No, that's not. It's like, okay, yeah, it's nice to have, but it's like when people sign NDAs. Nobody's saying you go and shout tomorrow, but so that in case it happens. But don't think about it that way. Now, we think about having 2% of the company but voting shares. That's a very long You're not even there yet. When you think about IPOs and classes of shares, you have Class A, Class B, Class C. Then you can start talking about voting rights. But even when you have that voting rights, there's this people call your board. I remember what happened to Sam Altman with all of his voting rights and the rest. They fired him on a Sunday evening or something. So it's not. So I think for me, that's the wrong approach to look at it. Yes, it's okay, but 4 people plus yourself 5, or is it 4? That's a lot too, but
So just to give you some legal dynamics to that, when you start looking at those small size equities, they've gone public, first of all. And when you go public, there's a maximum you can have because, that is based on jurisdiction. But at the starting point, right, you are not looking at those numbers yet. Numbers will be a lot higher. But then, people that get to that level, you know what it means to own 1% of Microsoft? Now, also, when you get to that level also, you kind of dilute your shareholding and subsume through proxies, through other entities, right, that protect your interests. Now, so they still maintain some sort of control, but really not as much control as they would have liked to. Right? Because let me tell you, being a founder comes with some level of eccentricity, which is not particularly great for business growth. And that's why you need what they call corporate governance that helps you structure your systems and creates guardrails to prevent you from doing what? Falling off. Here's what I would rather advise you to look at. 1, you see, when you start looking for investors, some investors will demand a seat on the board. They're doing it now because now don't they carry their money, they go where they don't know. So they want a board now, right? But then that creates, so you must contextualize your investments. investments that are coming in. Someone is asking for equity. And listen, guys, equity is not cake that you cut and just give. You know, you have not thought of the implication of dividends. If you think of dividends, you will not just be cutting it and giving out the way you are, as if you are dashing someone something, right? But when investors come and they get a seat on the board, it can be one of two things. They could be to your benefit. Why do they sit on the board? They want to be on the board to see what's happening, right? But they can also become your worst nightmare. So you want to ask yourself, and that's one of the things that you as your co-founder must discuss and know and agree to, right? Who's going to come on board and the people you are going to have on board. Here's what I advise founders. Have two types of boards. Have an advisory board, right? A board of directors, a board of advisors, you know, and all that. And then your statutory board is the board, CAC, you understand me, right? Which should be within the co-founders, right? And maybe one or two other people who have the best interests of the company at heart. And then you have an advisory board that helps you curate your corporate governance structure. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Now, that helps you. You are keeping yourself accountable. Because if I ask many founders here, how many of you have boards? You'll be looking at me like Greek. But it's not really a big thing. There's a word I have coined called board strapping. What it means is, listen, you have one uncle that is a retired director. You have another auntie that is a chief matron. You have one uncle that is a pastor. Hold yourself accountable to them. Make them your board. Have meetings 3 times a year. Tell them, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. If you can't get it can be on Zoom. It can be, you know, in one eatery. It can be in a secluded space for 2 hours, you know. Note down everything. Document it. Adjourn to the next. They will tell you what they think. One advice is get people who, or relatives, or people who understand, you know, your sector. Don't go to your village people on your own, right? But you get these people, they'll advise you. So that's bootstrapping, right? But before you start thinking of maintaining control with 6%, that's way down the line. You're not thinking that now. But like you said, intentions are very important. I'm not asking you to document your relationship, contextualize, have your co-founder agreement because you want to protect yourself. No, you want to protect the business. Do you understand me? You want to protect the business. In protecting the business, you are ultimately protecting yourself. If you start protecting yourself, you are not protecting the business. You kill the business because you want to protect yourself. And that's what has killed the startups that have failed due to co-founder relationship, because one person decided to protect themselves at the expense of the business.
Okay, so I saw 2 hands. Yeah, I saw 2 hands here. One. Yeah.
So we might have to do more than the 4, honestly. People came here. Okay, that's fine. Please ask the question.
Okay, so I won't cast my team by mentioning how many co-founders we are.
Cast.
Never. Okay, so the relationship started as a class assignment, and then we discovered that we hit something big. We're a lot. We are. But now, more and more, I'm realizing that we need to downsize significantly. But what do you do now? How do you not push or deceive or cheat a large number of people? Some active, some inactive, but how do you not cheat? I feel it's cheating. Cheat a large number of people, 1. 2, how do you protect the technology or the business, the idea you're growing or you're building from being, quote and unquote, taken by one of your co-founder, or one of the co-founder stepping out and replicating that thing, like just for his or herself? How do you do that? Thank you.
Celestine,
So Celestine and I will speak to that issue. I will speak from a legal perspective. He will speak from a practical market perspective, right? First of all, I'll be first or first. Which one is the correct one? First or first. Just kidding. Those are some of the things that are in a co-founder agreement. Intellectual property ownership is very important. See, as an investor, what are you selling? Your technology, your product tied to a technology. Yeah. Only a stupid investor will not want to know the root of ownership for that technology. You can't tie it to one person. You have to tie it to the entity. So then you now start looking at what we call special purpose vehicles, which is like the business entity or the company, so to speak. Now, if the co-founder you set up the company, they all have shares. Fantastic, no problem. But then, when one person leaves, can he say, okay, cut out my 10% of it, I'm taking my 10% with me? No, you must now structure some of those things, right? It must be warehoused jointly and protected in a way that it cannot be split. I don't know if you understand me, right? So let's use marriage, children, and then divorce. God forbid, in Jesus' name. Eh? Do you say, okay, cut the child into two. One person take half, let me take half. You start looking at things like custody, right? Visitation rights, and the likes. So that's part of what you need to do, which is on your intellectual property. It must be warehoused by an entity owned, an entity that subsumes the entire relationship amongst all the founders. So you guys have a company or stuff. That's one. But sometimes some co-founders may be coming with unique technology that they want to keep owned by them, right? They can keep that and do what we call an assignment, assign to the company for a period of years. Maybe for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You must have an intellectual property assignment agreement, if that is the kind of case, so that co-founder does not walk away with their IP and leave the entity with nothing. Does that help? Well, so you have non-compete, non-solicitation clauses. You have certain clauses that help. I'll tell you, I have a very funny angle to this thing. You see this thing called copying? It's not that easy. They may have the idea, they don't have your brain. You see this law. You can never be me. And the market has a way of distilling things. All the copycats, let me put you on the spot. All the copycats in the ecosystem, do they last? Copycats don't last. So when you talk about replicating and all that, once you have built a bit of a structure around your business, you built a bit of a structure, you've kind of contextualized what you're building. Tie in the proper legal. Who will steal. But always have that unique component to what you're building. Is the most important thing. That uniqueness to you is something that can be copied, something that can be replicated. People will tend to see through it, right? But when you have clear clauses that even prevent some of those things, where you have people do these things, you can go against them in court, right? And get them to pay damages, stop what they're doing, rename their businesses and the likes. But don't be too afraid of people copying you. that you now end up over-masking the product and people don't get the essence of it?
Okay, thanks. So I think to your question, so two things. When it comes to people just leaving the company and like say take 10% of it, co-founders have this thing called a vesting period. A vesting period is, even though I have X number of shares at Clump, I don't exactly own that X number of shares. Does it make sense? So Mr. Oyi had said that you are a trustee. That's it. So let's assume I own 20% of Clump. It's on paper that I own 20% of Clump. But technically, I don't own that 20% until I stay till a particular period of time. It could be anywhere between, minimum is 4 years. All right? In my own case, it's 4 years. So my 20% today at Clump, technically, is not, if I leave today, it's not all coming to me. Probably will go me like 12 because I didn't stay for that 4 years. Does that make sense? So for your own case, if anybody wakes up today and leave, that's it. They own zero, nothing. It doesn't matter whether they did 100% of the work. They didn't see the duration of it. You're not cheating anybody. See, I used to be very worried about being a nice guy in business. You know, like I fired somebody today, unfortunately, this morning. It is what it is. And I told her, listen, you cost the company 7 million naira every year, right? Now that's just compensation. I haven't added HMO, days, that. If I put it together, it costs something like 10 million naira. Now, if I give my wife 10 million naira every year, do you know what that means? But technically, I'm not going to do that, of course. But the point is that she costs us money and she's not delivering the value. Then you have to go. This is what it is. If this person comes up and say, okay, I'm a member. Remember when you used to do school projects? You have 5 people, but only 2 persons will carry the project on their head. The other 3 people will share the A. Was it fair to you? No, it wasn't fair. I mean, let's face it. Everybody's not going to pull the exact same weight. So if a person decides to stand up and leave, then that's it. They take nothing. It's a very simple thing. That's why that agreement thing comes up. Now, in our own case, our investors had to force us to have a vesting period. And I fought it. It's like, I've been here for 1 year. Because you're giving me money, you can't. You're starting from zero. It was painful, but I needed their money. So we went back to zero and started it. So don't be scared of letting people go. You're not ice cream. You cannot make everybody happy. That's it. So be comfortable of being, don't worry about that part. Then the second part about people living and stealing ideas. See, ideas are a dime a dozen, I guarantee you. What makes the difference is execution. There are 2 companies that I really like. So there's one called Uber, which you all know. There's another one in the US called Lyft, Lyft. They both started at the same time, right? Uber is about a $160 billion company. Lyft is about 10% of that. But they all started at the same time. So why do you think Uber is this and Lyft is that? It's just execution. Take the idea, no problem. Let all of us go to the market together. Remember when Paystack came in 2015-16? In 3 months' time, there were 20 Paystacks, right? Where are all of them today? You had this company, you had that company, you had this. But yeah, this thing is hard. It's rough. It's tough. My blood pressure can never go back to what it was, unfortunately. It is what it is. I have an ECG machine at home. Every morning I check what is Zulu reading today. My wife was okay, I'm going to sleep for 10 more minutes. I mean, that's it. Because God really likes me, even though I would have grown gray hair by now. Oh, sorry, it's not a dig on you.
He doesn't like me.
No, but yeah, it's rough. It's tough. There was a period in my life where I'll go to bed and I don't sleep early to start with. I sleep at 1 a.m., 2 most times. And I wake up at 8 and start work. I'll go to bed at 2. My eyes will be wide open till 6. I can't sleep. I'll turn and turn and, turn and turn and turn. I can't sleep. Because today is 14th, right? 11 days time I have to pay salary, whether I like it or not. It's not whether... There's so much I can sell the vision to people. After people will tell you, look, I have a baby. My baby needs diapers. This is your vision that you're selling. You cannot pay for diapers. And you can't blame them. So the same way you cannot tell people, oh, stay for this vision, is it when you're letting people go. I used to struggle with letting people go. I used to struggle with it. What would they do? What would they do? What would they... But this time around, see, you cannot carry dead weight. So even your 10 members that you have in your team, anybody that's a dead weight has to go. Because in the course of you being a nice guy and carrying the dead weight, they will all sink you, and you're going to die. So that's it. So this is your 80% shares that you hold comes to zero. You know? So this is what it is.
It's not even logistically tidy.
All right, thank you, sir. Let me go straight to the point. You made mention that there can't be two captains in a boat. So I want to know personally from your experience and our first speaker. I want to know, you said he came to you and he said, I had this idea, I've worked with you, this experience, let's do this, and you said it clicked. So how did you pick the captain? Because it was his idea, and I believe you were the one running the project that you guys met. So you were like ahead of him, and he was supervising. I don't know. But I want to know how you picked the captain for your setup. And sir, I want to know how you pick the captain for your team so that we have a practical knowledge of picking. Because like you said, I know you can get intellectual property for whatever you're building, but I thought it was written in stone that whoever has the idea, if it is my idea and I'm bringing you on board, you know, definitely have the deciding voice. So I want to know, I just want to know.
No, that's not how it works. So remember when, for a long time, this company we all know called Google, the founders were not the CEOs. There was a guy called Eric Schmidt. Yeah, he was like the CEO. But it doesn't mean that because Larry and Sergey were the guys with the ideas, they have to be the captain. No, they were not just fit for it. Now, when it comes to brokering deals, my co-founder is excellent. He's patient with that. Today I was talking to somebody and the guy kept going in circles, in circles, in circles, in circles, in circles. And I was fuming. He sent me a message like, so listen, don't say a word. Just chill. I got this. If it was just me and that guy, I would blow up that deal. Because I was like, why are you? You know those people that just fixate on, you came in, you look very nice. But this is your hair, sha. And they fixate on that hair and leave every other thing about you. I was at that point. But you know what? He said, like, chill. So for me, when it comes to that human-to-human relationship, excellently managing people, getting people to do everything that needs to do, that was his strength. And I'm like, okay, this is you, so go deal it. So whenever we go on those meetings, I take the back seat. Until like, so where's the CEO? I'm like, okay, he's there. I have been asked so many times, but you don't talk. Like, yeah, let the guy talk, because I might say something stupid here, and you guys will chase us out of your office, and we'll just lose this thing. So let him speak. So that's his strength. He's going to talk. Same thing also, when we go for meetings and investors are asking about the tech itself, he doesn't talk. I carry the weight because that's my strength, that's my forte, that's my domain. So I think we are, in this part of the culture, we are so worried about the head. That head. No. My guy, the head of zero is zero. That's how I look at it. Listen, at 60, I want to buy a yacht for myself. I'm not a humble person, I'm sorry. I'm not humble in the sense, I want to buy a yacht and enjoy myself. So if this guy is going to lead us to that place where I can buy that yacht, let him lead. I don't care. Do you understand? So for me, it came to that, what's practical, what makes the most sense? If he's the one talking, let him talk. That's not my business. Let him talk. I'll sit down and let him talk. And when he talks, as long as it gets us to that destination, I'm very okay with it. Whose name comes out in what doesn't really bothers me. As long as, one, he's doing good by me, I'm doing good by him, then that's fine. Let him captain the ship, I don't care. For a long time, I used to think, because he has more shares, or whoever has the most shares should carry the CEO. Like no. Whoever is, maybe doing so and so and so and so, let him carry the thing, and that's it. So that's how we deal with it.
So your personalities determine a lot, right? Like you said, MDC, Instagram, social media has done us a lot of this. You can be on LinkedIn, especially. You are CEO, founder, this of what? Nothing. The real deal lies in, so they say, man, know thyself, right? Understanding your strengths and then leveraging on your strengths, understanding your weaknesses and then outsourcing those areas to someone who is stronger, which is why I said it's important for you to have that difficult conversation, those questions, to understand strengths, and then, outsource. Founders don't make great CEOs, sorry to say. You don't. Like I said, the average founder is oftentimes eccentric. Go and look at the big startups we look at. How many of them have held leadership? Do you know why Apple became so successful? It wasn't exactly because of Steve Jobs' creativity or his innovation. It was because of Tim Cook's ability to get things done decently and in order. Abi, that's his name, Tim Cook. Tim does not have a bone of innovation in him, but he knows how to get the trains to arrive on time. That may be the gift your co-founder is bringing. With Celestine, it appears that it's some sort of that sort of thing, right? If you say, because, I have the technology, I must run the ship, you will most likely run it aground. Tim was first kicked, Steve Jobs was kicked out of Apple at the time. You understand that? Uber, that we've spoken about today, the founder is no longer a shareholder. And he was first kicked out of the board. He was asked to leave the board. And then a couple of years later, they called him and said he had to divest his entire shareholding. He sold off all his shares. Does anybody know this? Yeah. Eh? You know it, right? Uh-huh. Okay, he knows it. If you don't know, it's your business. But the point is, if you are building seriously, it's not about you. It's about the product. What does this product need? You see my chef at home. I can wash her clothes or do anything, or even if she's running late to work or something. Because I know she's playing a role that neither my wife and I can play. So we don't play with her. As far as the children are concerned, right, we know there's something she's doing and all that. If she says, sir, okay, I want to go market, go buy something, I need to buy this. And I said, don't worry, I can go and buy it for you. Do this. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because this cannot afford to suffer. That must be your thinking. So when you think that way, roles will be, and let me tell you the truth, it just happens. You don't plan it. We will not say, okay, come. Who's going to be the daddy? You'll be the daddy this month. I'll be the mommy. It doesn't work that way. Somehow, one person will just take leadership. Somehow, one person will just allow the other person to take center stage. In fact, that is the first way you know that you have a relationship that is working. Yeah. So imagine he said to Celestine, calm down. And Celestine said, no, I won't take it. You blow that boat, you finish blowing it off, you speak all your English, the client goes, Abi, then when I go start on our own war. But I told you I had this covered. He said, no, you can't tell me you had this covered. Why is he talking about my hair, figuratively? Right? So, but as the business morphs, these things will just happen. And as they happen, one person will just sip in and take that role. And before you know it, it becomes, the norm, because what's happening? Your personalities are beginning to rub off on the business, and the business is benefiting from it when you see it. But just to be very clear, that you are both co-founders does not mean that you must be CEO. The both of you may not even be fit to play that role. Your ability is to identify, even Meta. Meta had Sheryl Sandberg for, as soon as Zuckerberg knew that what he was building was something serious, he went to Fortune 500 to bring one of the best in the game to come and build structure. You know why Google was so successful? Because Eric Schmidt built that company running a very lean system. Lean. In fact, it was from Eric Schmidt I first heard. He said, look, if he comes to your startup and sees that your place is all lit, all nice, all set up, something is wrong. His table in Google was made out of an old door. And he had a corner office just somewhere. And that's where he was running Google from. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The founders understood what they needed to build a sustainable company. If it's about title, you've lost it. The moment it becomes about my role, I am CEO, I am this, I am that, you've lost it. I went for an event with some of my team members, and one of my team members was having problem tying her shoelaces. It was making her, trip. The lace was. I knelt down, and I just quickly tied it, stuck it properly, and I said, "Watch me as I do the second leg." Right? It looks mundane, but the point is, I needed her to walk fast for us to get to where we are going to. And Sisi is, well, if you can't do it, let me just quickly do it. Let's go. It's not about position. It's not about title. Your personalities will bring out each person, right? And then once that happens, everything just morphs into your journey. You understand that? Oh, yeah. I think we're good.
About the question.